5 months. She's a year.
So that is a lot of experience.
Yeah, the first day I got her, the next day I brought her.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I always wanted to have a job where I could bring a dog with me.
Me
I'm
too,
lucky to have
and I
that.
got it. They're out there, especially now.
Yeah, especially now. Definitely now.
So Kelly, you've got your little friend.
Yes, I've got my troublemaker.
Yeah, good. Okay, yeah, I have a couple of those too. I'm gonna chime it in. He hears me talking. He's got to jump in. All right, you can go lie down. Oh, hi everybody. Oh, I'm so glad you could all make it. And I apologize for the last minute notice. However, I told you I would explain why. Over the weekend, I went to a conference on aggression in dogs. It was a fantastic conference. Amazing speakers, people that I have followed before, some that I had met for the first time, but just amazing speakers. And it was partly virtual and partly, in person. And one of the sponsors who had a booth was Laura Donaldson, who is a speaker at the summit coming up. And Laura was a speaker at the last summit also. And she has an absolutely amazing program. It's called Slow Thinking is Life-Saving for Dogs. And she delves very deeply into how dogs process their environment, how they choose to engage or don't engage, and the importance of agency for the dogs. And she uses a lot of the protocols that I'm wanting to use with you. One of them is free work, which we've talked about. And because I was an attendee at the conference, I had a chance to buy her course, which started on Sunday at a discount. And she doesn't open it up very often. So it was not only a discount, but it was a chance to get her complete slow thinking course. So I jumped on it right away.
Oh yeah.
And she has, there's videos and things on her platform. She uses Thinkific, which is a course platform. But every Tuesday at 7, she has a group meeting for the people in the course. And I said, oh my goodness, I have a conflict.
Can't do it, right.
So that's why I asked you if you would change. So her group meeting is at 7, and it's an interactive Q&A, kind of like this, where everybody's live and everybody is chiming in and asking questions. So I'm really excited to attend it. And of course, there's a recording that you can watch afterwards, but there's nothing like being there live. So I really—
Not if you have a question.
Yeah, right. Well, you can send your question in ahead of time, but then you have to listen to the recording to hear your answer, and you can't really, you can't have a conversation, obviously. So,
well, Marilyn, I'm happy for you, and I'm happy for me too, because 6 o'clock actually works better for me.
Oh, good.
Me too. I was thrilled personally.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm glad. We can keep it at 6 o'clock. I mean, this course, it I guess goes for 4 weeks, maybe 5. I'm not sure. So the next 4 or 5, I guess the next 4 at least, I would be tied up at this time, but we can just keep it at 6 if you guys like it that way. I mean, that's fine.
I like it.
That works fine. The only person who's going to have a problem, I think, is Lisette, because it's on Central Time. So this is 5 o'clock for her, and it kind of overlaps with her work. And if she works from home, it's still, it's got to work. So
right.
Hopefully, maybe we'll see if something can work out for her. But she said she'd be a little late.
Yeah, Alicia, it's hard for her because it's the evening before our Wednesday update.
I'm a 30-minute drive home, and it's 5 o'clock for me because we're Central Time as well.
Oh. Oh dear. Well, let's just see how it goes. You know, I hate that anybody has to be inconvenienced. And then after Laura's course is over, we can evaluate it and see what we want to do. I mean, I'm open to either way. I just want it to be convenient for everybody, and I don't want anybody to have to miss because of the time. So, okay. All right, so I wanted to take you all to the next step of this process, but before we do that, is there anything you want to ask? Any questions that came up, any problems that you want to bring up? Anybody?
We're still just plugging away.
Everybody's good. Oh, that's, I don't know if that's good or not.
I do have one.
Okay.
All of a sudden, Phoenix has forgot how to walk on a leash.
Oh, really? What do
She's
you mean?
she's greeting people here appropriately, and there's, you know, so now it's like she's regressing. She's pulling on the leash. You know, what I've been doing is I stop, I'll turn and go in a different direction. I tell her with me, which is what I've always told her, but she's just being bullheaded about walking now.
So is there anything in particular that seems to trigger her to pull ahead? Is it like seeing another person? Is it like birds, squirrels?
Well, those things absolutely do it, but it's just wanting to sniff.
Ah, okay. Okay, that was going to be my next question. So sniffing is, you know, some people will refer to it as enrichment, but it's more than that. It's like vision is to us. You know, somebody told us we had to walk around all day with a blindfold on. It would be very, you know, upsetting if we have the power of sight, but somebody told us we couldn't use it. So sniffing is the way dogs process their environment. And sometimes they'll have their heads up in the air, and you've probably seen this with your dogs, I'm sure. Sometimes they'll have their heads up in the air and they'll be kind of air scenting and sniffing, picking up on some odor and trying to see, you know, where it is or what direction it's coming from. And sometimes they'll have their nose straight to the ground because they'll be following a track of some kind. What? Who knows? It might have been where a wild animal went or where another person and dog were traveling. But we know from dogs that are trained to track, we know that dogs can follow a track when it's even days old. So if they're picking up an interesting scent of maybe a person and a dog who passed that way half an hour ago, I mean, they're gone, we don't see them, but the scent is there. So we have no idea what the dog is picking up when she's sniffing, but it's her way of processing the environment. What I think, somebody want to ask something? Nope. Okay. So what I think might be going on with her is that she's processing new things in other areas of her life. The way she's greeting people in the office and, you know, other kinds of things in her daily life. So she's incorporating changes. And changes are, you know, by nature, they're a little bit stressful. They're not bad. They're just, you know, unless it's a bad change. But most of the time, change is just what it is. I mean, our life, if we're not changing, we're not growing. And if we're not growing, that's not a good sign. So she's processing all of that. And this may be her way of self-soothing and comforting herself by doing something that feels totally relaxing, engages her brain in a way that really nothing else does. Does that make any sense to you?
It makes sense.
Yeah. So what do? remember, we're working on giving the dogs agency because that's the way they're going to learn how to make choices. If we make choices for them, they will never learn how to make choices themselves. And we will always be micromanaging everything they do. And sometimes our management will work and sometimes it won't. So we're back where we started in that, frustrating spinning our wheels. So we need to give the dogs agency. Now, sometimes it's going to be a little bit messy. It's not always going to feel like totally comfortable. Sometimes we'll feel like, is this the right thing to do? We're kind of taking a risk. Should I really let the dog do this? And the bottom line is, as long as the dog is safe, if she wants to sniff on a, so let me ask you this, Alicia, one question. When she's doing this leash pulling and sniffing, what kind of a walk is it? Is it like an exercise walk or just a relaxed? Why are you out walking her? I guess is what I'm asking.
So it could happen as when we walk at the park, the first mile is an exercise walk. And then the next 2 miles are relaxed and you can sniff and go where you want. And she keeps a loose leash. Then when we're here at St. John's and I'm taking her out to use the restroom and we do a lap and I want to have a loose leash, she can sniff some, but we have to be back in a few minutes. But so she pulls in both instances, whether it's here or at the park.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest. And this, whether this is a permanent adjustment or a temporary one is really going to be up to you. It's going to be up to the dog. You'll have to just kind of see how things unfold as you go forward. But I would give her sniff walk first.
Okay.
So when you first go out, give her a lot, the whole length of the leash. Actually, I don't know if it's safe to do at the church because I know you're near a busy road, but to give her like a longer line, like if you had a 12-foot line instead of a 6-foot line, to give her that and just let her sniff and sniff and sniff. And if she happens to pee while she's sniffing, then, that's fine. And if you're on a limited time and she's going out for a potty walk, then maybe just, kind of let her sniff and potty and sniff and potty, and then, okay, we're done, let's go back in. So one thing that I'm sure this will work out fine is you just have to be able to signal her, like if you have to go back in and get back to work at the office, you need to tell her, okay, we're done, let's go, come on, we're done. And she has to, hear that with you. Okay, now it's time to go back. When you're walking her at home, you might be under less pressure. So you might be able to, be a little bit looser about it. Give her a little bit more time to do her sniff walk. But I would do the sniffing part first. And you could experiment. Maybe you could do sniff, exercise, then sniff.
Okay.
Try that. Or just to sniff and then exercise. Just see what works. See, if you let her sniff first and then you say to her, okay, now it's time, we're going to go for a nice, brisk walk because it's exercise time. And then and I am a huge advocate, as I'm sure you all know, I am a huge advocate of having a conversation with your dog. I mean, literally telling the dog, here's what we're going to do. Trish knows because Trish is like developed this to an art form, and she does this with Shadow and it works like a charm. So I am a huge fan of doing that. Just have a conversation, say, like you say to her, okay, Phoenix, I've given you some time to sniff now. How do you feel about moving along? Is it okay if we go on, like make it like a friendly conversation? And sometimes if you just ask instead of saying to her, we're going to do this now, which sets up a little like built-in resistance. But if you say, would you like to go for a nice brisk exercise walk now? How about that? What do you think? Would you like to do that? You might just get a yes, because I believe that dogs understand our intentions, the intentions behind the words, because those words, whatever they are, originate in a thought. If you didn't have the thought, you wouldn't say the words.
Okay.
So the thought is what the dog senses, not the words. He just bypasses the words and goes right to your brain. Isn't that creepy? But that's, that's pretty much what happens. So what do you think, Alicia? Do you think that will help?
I probably, because she doesn't
still
bark at
muted.
people. Oh. Muted?
Now you're muted again. Why did that happen?
Am I muted now?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Lost your voice. Let me just see what is this here. Whoops. No, I don't want that.
Yeah, Marilyn,
Okay.
I can hear her.
Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, I can too.
Maybe Marilyn.
Yeah, good point, maybe.
It doesn't, on my screen, it doesn't look like you're muted, so I don't know. Maybe your microphone is.
The others can
off.
hear me, Marilyn. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can all hear her.
Are the rest of you okay? Can you?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
we can
can't
all
hear the
her.
rest of you either.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
What is this? Let me see. Hmm. Speakers. I don't know what just happened. It must be on my end because I can't hear any of you. You can hear me though, right?
Yes.
Volume.
That's very weird. Let me see.
I meant volume, not sound.
All right. Let's see.
I don't know that she looked at the chat.
Yeah, maybe not. It was a good thing to do. Immediately, so maybe she saw it.
You're all laughing at me, I can tell.
We are not.
Okay.
Stuff happens, we know.
I'm guessing she's
Okay, she's showing that she's muted now. Okay, now she's unmuted.
I could hold up a sign as your volume.
We can do that. Write your questions in.
Oh, wait a minute.
Can always
Write
put them on the chat.
clearly. Write slowly.
We're all gonna have to learn sign
Okay.
language.
Somehow, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, good.
You know what it
Oh,
was?
and it's backwards.
It's not. My volume was up, but somehow, I don't know how that happened because I didn't do anything, but the speaker volume went to 0. I have no idea how that happened.
Gremlins.
Yeah.
Computers.
Blame it on the dog.
Okay. All right. So,
Yes, I think that'll help.
okay.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a go, and she doesn't growl at people when I have a conversation, so.
Yeah, have a conversation, and when in doubt, I mean, this is very hard. I struggled with it too, because I had to submit a video for Laura's course, and I submitted the video, but I didn't do it right. So her teaching assistant responded. She said, "No, you shouldn't have done it that way. You should have done it that." I said, "Oh, okay." So, I mean, we all struggle with this and we all try, you know, we do our best and we do what we have, you know, it's just been it's part of our culture to do these things. Like the dog is pulling, we're going to tell him to stop. But we have to, you know, try to train our minds to think, well, why is the dog pulling? What does the dog need? What's the unmet need that I need to understand and then find a way to address it? And then I would be very interested, Alicia, to find out after a couple of days of you following this procedure, what you notice, because a huge percentage of this is our ability to observe, to just stand back and observe and watch the dog and then interpret the feedback that we get. And that's hard because we're so used to getting in there and micromanaging everything.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, that's what we do. But we have to, yeah, and so it really takes a lot of mindfulness and self-discipline to say, wait a minute, let's think about this first. So I would be really interested if what you observe about Phoenix and whether, you know, what you observe about just her overall demeanor. Is she feeling more relaxed? Is she checking in with you a little more? Because what I want to go over with you today is a check-in exercise. And you may already, depending on the amount of training that you have, and some of you have quite a bit, some of you have, you know, just a moderate amount. It doesn't matter, because even if you've done a check-in exercise before, I want you to look at it a little differently. Okay, anybody else want to ask anything before?
Yeah, mine with the whole door thing,
Yeah,
the front door, nowhere else in the house, but the front door, when we go out, she runs out and then she stops. But she does run until she hits her end of her leash, and then she waits for me to come to her.
okay.
So, and it's only the front door.
Okay, so you're taking, so when you go out the front door, Kelly, is it typically that you're taking her out for for a walk, for exercise? Okay, so
For a
she,
walk.
yeah, and she kind of likes going out for a walk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she really likes it. So she's, I mean, she's obviously anticipating
Mhm.
getting to go out. It's like, hurry up, mom, you know, you're
Yeah.
too slow, hurry up.
And I think
You know,
part of it is she doesn't like to be on grass and stuff, so she's got to hurry up and get to where she's not on grass.
oh, really?
Now, when she's free in the backyard, oh yeah,
Yeah.
grass is good, you can hunt.
Oh, okay. Oh, she wants to be on the grass.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I heard you say it the other way around. She wants to be on the grass. So she's hurrying to get on the grass where she can sniff.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a habit that she's developed. I mean, she's what, 11 now? 11 years old?
Almost 12.
Almost 12. So she's had that habit for quite a while.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is the terrier hunting behavior.
So she wants to go and hunt. So that's what's on the other side of that door. And that's why she's can't wait to get out there. What would be your ideal outcome if there were a change that we could make in that behavior? What part of it would you like to change and what would be ideal for you?
I'm pretty much, this is what she likes. When she gets to that point, then she slows down. So maybe when other people are around or something, to go slower. But
Well,
it's
she's either
the
going to
only
go
place.
slow or not go slow. It doesn't,
Yeah.
she's not going to care if other people are around. I mean, you might, but I don't think she's going to care. So when you say go slower, do you mean after the door is opened or before? Because I imagine before she's rushing to the door, right?
No, she walks quietly to the door.
Okay.
It's just that jump out.
So once the door is open, she jumps out.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, and
Um,
I just kind of let that go anyway, because once she does that, she calms down.
So are you pretty much okay with leaving it the way it is? Do you think she's in any danger?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right, if you're okay with the way it is, and the dog is okay with it, it might not be worth the effort that it would take to change an 11-year-old dog's habit that is driven by a really intense instinctive desire.
Mhm.
So you've got two things working, to drive that behavior, and it might be more difficult than it's worth. You think to change
It's
that?
that-
Now,
it's that high grade drive.
so she's a little dog, and for practical purposes, I think that we could rely on just plain old management. So, for example, if there was a really good reason why you did not want her to rush out the door, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe somebody was walking a great big dog past your house, who knows, just for whatever reason, just pick her up. Just pick her up and carry her to the grass and then set her down.
Okay.
And that's, the only time you would need to do that was when there was a really good reason why you didn't want her rushing out.
Yeah.
Maybe it was her safety or something else.
Mhm.
But other than that, if you're okay with it, it's like any of the only behaviors that we need to address are the behaviors that either undermine the dog's well-being and safety.
Mhm.
So if a dog is anxious and upset, and like the
Please.
reactivity that we've seen in some of these dogs, where they're barking, and they get really like intensely aroused and anxious, that's just not good for their overall well-being and their long-term health.
Yeah.
So we want to address that. But if the dog is doing something that maybe, we're not totally 100% thrilled with, but it doesn't hurt anything, then, maybe we can just like save our energy for the things that we really need to change,
Mhm.
right? Pick our battles. Yeah. So anything else? Anybody? Okay. Let me explain what I want you to work on next. This is an exercise that you're going to take and work on. You're sort of going to take it into the laboratory and work on it before it's ready to take it on the road. So don't expect in the beginning that all of your dogs are going to be able to do this particular check-in when they're highly aroused. We're aiming for that at some point down the road.
Okay.
When that happens, for each one of you, it just depends. It depends on the individual dog. Everybody's going to respond differently. That's just normal. So what does a check-in look like? A check-in looks like the dog is engaged in looking at something else. He's engaged in something with something in his environment. But always keep in mind that you are also the dog's environment. You sometimes forget that. You are the dog's environment, along with whatever else is out there. So at any given moment, whether you're indoors or outdoors, your dog is going to be, if your dog is awake, your dog is going to be somehow engaged in the environment. So maybe your dog is kind of, looking at the trees out the window, or just kind of looking around, maybe noticing that he's got a toy over there in the corner or something. But
Whoa, you guys.
yeah.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
being pushed away by my dogs.
Oh, okay, well,
They're pushing against the chair. So, all right. Sorry. Excuse me.
so yeah, so right now your dog is engaging with you, Jerry, as his environment.
Yes.
Right?
Well, there's two of them engaging, and as they're engaging with the chair.
Okay, that's part of the environment. Yeah. So
Yes.
they're engaging. So a dog can engage with any old thing in the environment, but we want to start doing this exercise when the dog is relatively calm. He can be like alert and noticing things, that's fine. But we don't want to start teaching this when the dog is hyper aroused, because when a dog,
If you could excuse me 1 second, I've got to get them upstairs. They're making too much noise.
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Sorry.
Um,
I'll catch up.
Okay, when the dog is, when the dog is hyper aroused, he's not going to learn very well anyway. We know that, right? So we want the dog to be relatively calm when we start doing this. So. Okay. There. Oh, what did I just do? I just muted everybody. All right. I don't know what I just did. I just muted everybody. I don't know how I did that, but you guys are okay. You can unmute anytime you want. You should be able to. Yeah, so you want to practice this when the dog is relatively calm. And what you're going to wait for, now you're not, remember, we're all about giving the dogs agency, right? And reinforcing them for making choices that we want them to make. We're not even going to say good choices or bad choices, because that's a relative term, and that comes from our mindset and our human value system. So we're just going to choices that are desirable for us, and we're also work well for the dog. So it's a win-win. So what you're going to do is just quietly observe your dog. If you think your dog is going to wander away from you or wander, into a different room, you have the option of just hooking a leash onto the dog's collar. The leash can just drag on the floor. You could step on the end of it if you wanted to or not. Either way. And you're going to simply wait. I think this works better if you're sitting in a chair, because if you're standing up, you're going to be like shifting your weight. You might be giving your dog signals with your hands that you're not aware of. But if you're sitting in a chair, you can just kind of rest your hands in a normal way and have kind of a relaxed but neutral demeanor, like facial expression and all of that. So you're not asking the dog to do anything, but you want to make sure that the dog is close by. And as soon as the dog offers his attention to you, he doesn't have to look you in the eye. He doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be, look at you and hold his gaze there. It could even be just a quick glance. So the dog kind of like a check-in, just kind of turns, looks at you. It might only last a second, so you've got to watch for it. And the instant the dog does that, you're going to give him a really positive reinforcement. Oh, yes, what a good dog. Now, you have the option of petting, praising, and so forth. I've got a little demo dog here I can show you in a minute. But you can have like a little bowl of treats. And when the dog looks at you, you can say, oh, yes, good dog. Reach for some treats and give him like 3, 4, 5 treats. What a good boy. And then you're all done. And you just kind of relaxed expression again. The dog might be waiting for more treats, might ask for more treats. And you can just kind of, just be relaxed. You can look at the dog or not look at the dog. Either way, we're not going to do any of this, deliberately looking away and ignoring the dog. We're not going to do any of that. We're not trying to shut the dog down. We just want to kind of give the idea, that was lovely. I'm so glad you looked at me. Thank you so much. Nice deep breath. And then the dog might say, okay, I guess we're done. And then start looking around again, looking at other things, and then go, still got more of those treats? Or can you pet me again? Or something like that. And check back in with you. And then you're going to again shower the dog with attention. And if you wish, treats. The treats are a nice bonus add-on. We're not going to get dependent on them, because I'm going to start asking you to randomly reinforce attention whenever your dog looks at you, and you're not always going to have the treats handy. It's nice to use them in the beginning when you're just introducing this, to really like drive home to the dog, yes, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. I'm going to pet you and praise you, and I'm even going to give you treats. But you don't need to give the treats all the time. Eventually, your dog will be very, very happy with your emotional support, your praise and your petting and your, yes, oh, what a good dog you are. They will come to appreciate that. So go over the rules again. Your dog has to be calm, already calm. So you don't want to do it when there's like triggers going off all over the place. It's not a good time to start teaching this. And secondly, you want to be in close proximity to your dog. If you think your dog is going to wander off into another room, you can just hook a leash on, drop the leash down on the floor. You can step on it if you think the dog's going to wander away. And if he gets to the end of the leash, he'll get to the end of the leash, and then he won't be able to go any farther. And then he'll check in with you like, yeah, what? And then that'll be your opportunity to praise and reinforce. Yes, Jade.
Well, Rex is going to get super excited when he sees the leash. So, probably for Rex, it might be better just to, I can actually close the living room door
That'll work.
and keep him in proximity that way without using the leash.
Yeah, the leash is optional.
Right.
That's only if it's not going to get your dog overexcited. And
Right.
also if you think the dog is just not going to stick around long enough to do this like 3 or 4 times.
Mhm.
And that would be, once you've done it 3 or 4 times, quit for that particular series, and then you could always go back to it another time. Jay, don't use the leash. If you can like go into an area where he's going to stick around, and once he knows that you're going to be praising him for looking at you, he'll catch on. And I think all these dogs will catch on right away to how this game is played, and they'll participate. Anybody else have a question about it? All right. So now, where are we going with this? What's the purpose of it? What I just described is like the basic. That's where you start. That's where we're introducing it. All of you, I think, at one time or another, walk your dogs on a leash. So I want you to observe when you're walking your dog on a leash, and again, you're not going to ask for it. Whenever your dog checks in with you, I want you to reinforce. Again, it does not have to be with a treat. That's totally optional. If you think the treats are going to be a distraction, in other words, the dog will just keep looking at you because he knows you have treats, then we're kind of missing the point of the exercise. You want the dog to check in with you, not check in with your pocket full of treats. Okay. So, yeah. So work on it when you have the dog out for a walk. Work on it if you're just hanging out with the dog, like when, like if I'm working around the house and the dogs are just hanging out. If I happen to walk past them, a lot of times they'll pick up their heads and look at me, and then I will, most of the time, not all the time, I have to confess, but I try to remember to reinforce that check-in. And just by saying, oh, what a good dog you are, and maybe like a little scratch under the chin or scratch behind the ears, not a big deal. Just acknowledging that the dog said hi to me. It's like if you passed somebody on the street that you knew, and they said, hey, hi, how are you? And you just walked by and didn't say anything, that would be kind of rude. So I try to acknowledge every time the dogs look at me as if to say, hey, hi, I'm here. And then I just respond to them. So that's what I want you to start to go for. Okay. And what we hope as we progress with this, and how long it's going to take, I can't tell you, but what we're hoping is that when your dog is barking out the window or barking at kids on the playground or barking at somebody walking their dog on a leash, or the birds flying in the trees, or whatever triggers your dog, that the dog will be conditioned to check in with you. And when he does that, what's happening is that the dog is making a really, really important decision. He's choosing to disengage from the trigger, the arousing trigger that in the past has held him so intensely focused that he couldn't look at anything else. He's making the decision to disengage from that and engage with you. Remember, you're part of the environment too. So he's free to choose to engage with you as part of the environment instead of whatever that other thing is in the environment. Does that make sense? It's much too soon to expect that to happen in that kind of a conscious, intentional way where the dog actually makes the decision to look at the trigger, look at you, and then looking at you should have a calming effect. That's why when you reinforce the check-in, you're going to really engage with him in a very warm, communicative way. What a good dog you are. You don't want to get the dog like all riled up so he's jumping up and down and, you know, grabbing your clothes and biting. You don't want to do that. You want to reinforce, you say, oh, you're such a good dog. Yes, you are. You're a wonderful dog, and pet him and give him treats if you want. Any questions about that? Because what we're teaching is the disengagement. What we're aiming for, and this is where you want to go with this, is that when the dog sees the trigger, he will look at it and say, okay, when I see that, I remember that when I look at mom, I feel better. So I'm going to look at that, notice it, check in with you, and go lie down. If you're not there, we want that habit to be ingrained in us so that he can look at the trigger and say, okay, and then just go lie down. Or go relax, or go back to doing whatever he was doing, whatever his calm place, his, you know, safe place feels like for him. That's where we want him to go. Okay, that's what we're aiming for. So the check-in is a piece. It's not the total picture, but it's a really important piece because he's learning how to use his brain to make decisions that serve his well-being. He's better off being relaxed and calm, right? And so are you, right? So, okay. Everybody is muted. I did that. So I can ask you all to unmute. So anybody have anything that you want to ask, or any comment that you want to Alicia, are you trying to unmute?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
The getting the dog to check in with you.
Yes.
Ruffy has trouble with skunks. She got sprayed. She can tell if there's a skunk in the yard and she just goes crazy trying to get at it. She'll be scratching at the door trying to get at it. So I'm like, here, have a few treats.
You know, that's a super high arousal experience. So that's like way on the other end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You're working on this with her. Pick a time when there are no skunks, when she is already, you know, feeling pretty calm, pretty relaxed. There's nothing special going on that's getting her agitated or excited. And you're just rewarding her for looking at you, which she probably does a lot anyway. I'm sure your dogs do this a lot anyway. You just haven't really, paid that much attention to it because it didn't seem like that big a deal. Yeah, sure, my dog looks at me. Yeah.
Well, she does this like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning
Oh,
when the skunks are wandering. The neighbor feeds them.
feeds the skunks?
Ew.
Oh,
Skunks, groundhogs, whatever. She just throws out corn for everything.
oh,
She's a couple houses up.
Well, poor, yeah, that's a special situation. And like you said, she's a terrier and you kind of like her little hunting behaviors. So, you can't be picky.
Yeah,
Hunting is hunting. And if the skunk is out there at 2 a.m., well, I don't know
I'm
what
gonna stop her. And
yeah.
it's not as much a hunting thing, like when she goes after prey, but it's like pure anger.
Oh,
She's
it's
so-
predatory behavior. There's no anger about it. It's prey behavior. It's normal.
Okay, so
Normal, perfectly normal. Yeah.
it's different than when she wants to go after a squirrel.
Well, it's very intense.
Mm.
It's
So it's the
like,
intensity.
yeah, it's really intense. Sure.
Mhm.
But she's not angry. She's just doing her thing. That's just,
I know what you're talking about because I had a dog who really could have taken or left skunks until he got close enough to one to get sprayed.
Yes.
And after that, he wanted to kill them. So I
Mhm.
know what you're talking about. And he did kill several.
Oh, man.
And you don't ever want them to kill one because, of course, he picked it up by the throat
Mhm.
and broke its neck by shaking it over his head. And
all the spray. Woo.
There's
it was a shower. It really was.
skunk recipe you can get online.
Oh, yeah, there's.
Oh, I've done it
Bought
all.
by Blue
I'm sure you
Dawn
have one.
and
And
baking.
peroxide and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Huh. Yeah, well,
Can I just tie this to the exercise that you gave us in the last call where you were asking us to sit calmly with the dog and gently stroke and that kind of stuff? I've been trying it, to be perfectly honest, and I hope this doesn't make me sound like bad dog person, but that's not Amber's favorite thing. She doesn't seek out that kind of attention, and she doesn't seem to totally appreciate it. Now, at night, she sleeps all night on the bed touching me between my legs, or she's curled up between my legs or next to me, or she's got her head on my pillow and her feet in my husband's face or something like that. But during the daytime, she doesn't consider that any kind of reward. That's like, we could be playing, I could be running, you could be feeding me. Why do you just want to touch me? That's so boring.
she
So
rolled her eyes at you. I said, come on.
yeah, she looks, she's like, food would be better. Come on. So I struggle with alternative to food rewards for her that are calm, because if I took off running, she'd be very happy to chase me, but that's not helping her to be calm in a situation.
Right.
Mhm.
So if she doesn't, okay, if she, and there are dogs that do not like to be handled. I have one of my dogs, I have 3 Papillons. And, people think, oh, they're cute, they're toy breed, they're lap dogs, they sit in your lap and they pat. My 10-year-old dog came to me when he was 10 months old because his former owners wanted him to be a lap dog. He's not. He will not sit in your lap. He will not sit still to have me pet him. If I bend over and pet him, he'll lean on me and wiggle a little bit and kind of like rub himself against my legs. But then, that's it. Throw the ball for me. That's what I want you to do. Give me a toy. Let me hide some treats so I can find them. That's all he cares about. He's very opinionated, which is fine. He's a wonderful dog. So I get that, and there are lots of dogs that just don't like that kind of handling and touching. So we need to modify that. We need to find something that they do like. Is there any level of handling that you think Amber would, I don't even want to say tolerate, because I don't want the dogs to be tolerating these things. I want them to find these things enjoyable and pleasurable. So some dogs just love being touched and handled and petted. And, you know, I have a 35-pound dog who thinks he's a lap dog. And people have even bigger dogs that think they're lap dogs. So it's not the size of the dog that determines that kind of thing. It's the dog's personal makeup. It's what makes them who they are, their personality. So is there anything that Amber would enjoy?
She likes to do things like if I ask her to do paws up on me, she will, you know, stretch her paws all the way up on me and like do a nice big stretch, and then I can like run my hands down her body, maybe even twice before she says, that was fun, like what's next? You know, things like that. She likes to do trick. She doesn't mind being touched if it's like in the form of a trick or something. She gives paws, she gives high five, she'll wrap around my legs. But if I just want to sit on the floor and stroke her, she's like, yeah, nah. Sometimes I can stroke her, and if I'll do it like twice, and then I'll hold my hand out and she'll like lean into it. But then if I go to move my hand to stroke her again, she says, no, I thought you were going to just kind of let me rest my head in your hand.
So that's a really good observation. And we need to think in terms of not so much making the dog match our expectations or our agenda, but finding out what the dog would need or appreciate, or what would make the dog feel comfortable and safe, and then go for those things.
Yeah.
So here's one of the things. So I have no idea if this is going to work with Amber or not. And the only thing I can say is, if you feel like it has possibilities, you can try it. This is something that we do with horses, especially horses that are a little bit reluctant to be handled and touched. And the way we start out with gentling a horse that isn't used to being handled by humans is we start with, I'm going to use this marker because you can see it, but something you can take, anything. You can take like a wooden spoon or anything with a handle that's long enough. And what you're going to do is just very gently stroke, and just touch the dog gently, different parts of his body, and see if that's something that the dog likes. And the reason we do this with horses is that the object it's usually like a long, if you know what a dressage whip looks like, it's really, really long thing. And you know, whip is a bad word. Nobody whips the horse.
I've used one for the right reasons, so I understand.
Yeah. And so because it's an extension of your hand, the horse wouldn't want a person touching them. Maybe they're not used to it, or they just don't like it, or it's just not in their comfort zone. They don't like being physically handled with your hand actually touching the horse's body. So you just take an object and you just stroke with the object very gently, just enough pressure so the dog, the dog in your case, can feel the movement of the object. It feels like gentle stroking. And then you do it a couple of times very gently on different parts of the body, and you observe the feedback you get from the animal. Is the animal giving you calming signals and stress signs? Like, in other words, is he panting, Or are the ears tense and back? Is the tail down? That means stress. So you don't want, it's not working. You don't want to do it anymore. But if the dog looks like a little like, what are you doing at first? And then, you know, then gets a little neutral and then kind of eases into it, then maybe that'll work. The goal is to help the dog feel calm and safe. And you want to have some kind of physical contact with the animal, because that's kind of important going forward, to have that kind of physical contact without any kind of an ulterior purpose. Like, I want you to touch like a nose target. You're going to touch my hand because I asked you to do that, and I'm going to give you a treat.
Right.
So it's kind of ritualistic. We want something that is voluntary, just something that they can relax into. The other option, which I don't have time to explain to you, but one of our summit speakers is doing a whole talk on it, and it's one of the longest interviews in the whole summit. I think it was about 50 minutes, and most of them are like half an hour, give or take. So this was almost twice as long, and I could have listened to her for another hour. I hardly said anything. I'm just like listening to it.
I
Anyway.
signed up for the summit.
She is, the topic of her talk is Tellington Touch. Do you know what?
Oh, yes, I know.
Do you know, does anybody not know what Tellington Touch is? It's a system of, it's hard for me to explain without remembering the exact definition, but it's touch, but it's movement along the dog's body, which triggers the dog's nervous system in such a way that they relax. I've seen it work on horses, like horses. I mean, if you can envision a horse that's like fidgety and stomping and moving around and head held high and snorting and all of that, kind of dangerous. So I've seen this touch work on a horse like that, and within a matter of a minute or so, that horse's head came down and relaxed. You can see the muscles in the horse's body relax. So it's a very relaxing thing, but it's a very specific way of touching, and I can't really describe it. Now, you are free to go ahead and look that up. If you Google it, you'll find tons of information. It's called capital T, capital T-O-U-C-H, 2 T's at the beginning, two capital T's, T-Touch. And it's called Tellington T-Touch because Linda Tellington Jones developed it back in, I guess the 70s or 80s back then. So it's been around for a long time, and it's been very successful. So that would be the topic for another day. We can talk about that, but Wendy, that's what I would suggest that you try with her.
Okay.
Don't continue doing anything that she clearly does not enjoy.
Yeah, I'll try it in the evening when she kind of settles down, when we all settle down and start chilling out for the day.
If she's a little suspicious about whatever object you decide you're going to use, because she's going, what are you coming at me with that wooden spoon for? If she's a little suspicious, put some kind of peanut butter, cheese, or something like that on the tip of it and let her just keep licking it off until the thing becomes friendly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, guys. I'm off to my next meeting to learn
When
what I'm
When
doing
you're
wrong.
using peanut butter,
Yes,
a
and
very important thing to know about peanut butter is some of them have a chemical in them. Does it start with a Z or an
Xylitol.
X?
xylitol.
Yeah.
It's an artificial sweetener. Yes.
Read
Peanut
your
butter.
label.
Yeah, peanut butter, look for one ingredient, peanuts.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of peanut butter you need. Yeah, xylitol is an artificial sweetener and it is toxic to dogs, so you don't want that. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna go learn stuff that I can share with you.
Have fun. Thank you.
All righty, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.